Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. It's never a quiet day in the life of a Spurs fan, is it? Never a quiet day. We're back. We're here, refreshed, ready to go. We're steering you through, quite literally, to Wolves to come next for Spurs in the Premier League. I'm joined by top tier regular returning panelist to Last Word on Spurs. Alongside me, he looks like he's had a good breakaway. Must have been only a week or two or so. Ash is back from the Spurs Kings. Ash, how are you? Love to see you back alongside me. All things well.
Listen, sometimes it's good to have a little break, get your thoughts together. And guess what, man? Spurs are back. So, yeah, man. Look, tomorrow we go again, or if you're listening on the podcast from the audio view, maybe it's today. But listen, look, I'm looking forward to the boys watching them again and seeing what damage they can do on the pitch at home as well.
Yep, absolutely. Look, Top actually over 10 points in their 5 Premier League games under Thomas Frank so far. That's double the amount they won in their final 12 games under Ange Postecoglou. So there's a real good feel-good factor around Spurs at the moment. Also, always bringing a good feel-good factor to this. So it is the best-looking duo from the Spurs 5. Sorry to the rest of you. So sorry. We can upset a few there. We've got the wonderful Johnny, Hamme back, and Lubo from the Spurs 5. Johnny, firstly, how are you, mate? Love to see you back alongside us as well.
All good. Yeah, all good. Listen, I was just laughing there at the stat you just read out. Same points as our last 12 games. You did say 12 games?
I did say 12. Say 12. But we are going to listen. We are going to be kind. It's a new era. We've made a good start. We also don't want to get carried away as well. It's still early days in the life of Spurs, and as you know, Johnny, being Spurs, never a quiet day, right? Never a quiet day.
Never a quiet day, but for the ansexuals out there, that's quite a statement because they always tend to pop up on my timeline.
We did so well. 2 minutes 43 seconds in, and we're off.
Rome wasn't built in a day. And all you want to see as a Spurs fan, you want to see progression. And whilst far from perfect, with jigsaw pieces missing from the set to make it a perfect set, we can see progression. And that's all you ask for of a new manager coming in. So I walk out there smiling. I expect the bumps in the road. Just as long as they're not giant potholes, I'm quite happy right now.
Absolutely. Also back on the show. Look, Spurs have gone and taken our running order, right? Because honestly, we weren't even going to go there during the show. But what did we get in the last 24 hours? A Daniel Levy story. And who turns up with a Daniel Levy story to join us? We've got the wonderful Ian Lubin. Lubes, how are you, mate? Love to see you back alongside us.
Yeah, all good, thanks. Friday night. Always enjoy my Fridays. Match day tomorrow.
Yeah.
Always good in the world. Listen, I live like, you've got to live life day to day, week to week, particularly with Tottenham.
Absolutely.
And, listen, 5 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat, first 7 games, plus a draw with PSG. 90 minutes. It's been a very good start to the season.
Yeah, so, Spurs, on that point, Luke, you said it, Spurs are looking to record successive wins this week when they do host bottom of the table Wolves, of course, on Saturday night. I mean, look, we will all sit here and say, given our recent record against Wolves, we know that's not going to be an easy game. So we can't take that lightly, despite the fact, of course, they have lost every game so far in the Premier League, although they did get a win, of course, midweek in the Carabao Cup. Many would say that's a good thing. Anthony Costa would say that is a good thing. Look, let's give you a quick roundup of what we are going to be discussing during this episode of Last Word on Spurs. It's actually turned into quite a busy, frantic edition. Could you believe it? Yes, you can. It's Tottenham. On this edition of the show, we'll be bringing you the news around a potential takeover and where we are with that. Spurs are denying the club is for sale, but even so, there is a lot of interest out there for the football club, and there could be a big, big offer that is coming their way that has actually been launched. We'll be coming on to that and more during this edition of Last Word on Spurs. We'll also be discussing, according to The Athletic, how Daniel Levy is currently banned from entering Hotspur Way, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as well. So we're bringing you that and all the news surrounding that on this edition of Last Word on Spurs. We'll also be discussing, is there a potential return for Harry Kane? It seems to be building and building, this story, and not going away. So we'll bring you more on that during this show. And if Harry Kane could return to Tottenham, that story, like I say, not going away at the moment. One that looks like it is set to go away and not return for quite a degree amount of time. It's Savinho of Manchester City, a player Spurs, as everyone knew. We pursued him for a good 3.5 weeks over the course of the summer. Talking, but it looks like that player is now set to pen a long-term deal with Man City and commit his long-term future to that football club. And of course, we'll be ending on Tottenham hosting Wolves at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and how big that game is to continue the feel-good factor under Thomas Frank. Before we get into all that, let's bring into the show, friend of the show, Martin Lipton, who broke a story over the last 24 hours of new interest in Tottenham, a quite simply gigantic offer. Let's bring Martin's views into the show and we'll go back and come from here.
The departure of Daniel Levy from Tottenham was enough to get plenty of Spurs fans excited. But tonight, Sunsport can bring news that will truly get them off their feet and wondering if the club is about to go into the stratosphere. Spurs are the subject of a £4.5 billion bid to take over the club, a world record sum. And that includes a remarkable £1.2 billion spending pot to be given to Thomas Frank to reinforce the team. The man behind it is a former DJ, now a US tech guru called ENIC, who's assembled a 12-strong team of US investors who've already made an approach to ENIC and the Lewis family. Their ambition is simple: to turn Tottenham into a global powerhouse, to spend money, to transform the club, to turn Tottenham into a winning machine. For Spurs fans, it will feel already pretty much like a dream come true if it happens. The chance to not only take on Arsenal and Chelsea in London, but compete on a financial footing with everybody else, not just in the Premier League, but across the world of football. It will be a dramatic move, no question, one that would transform Tottenham and perhaps have the same impact as the Abramovich or Abu Dhabi takeovers. No wonder there would be Spurs fans salivating at the prospect. And in his blueprint for change, entitled Tottenham 3.0, ENIC has laid out his genuine belief that everything can change. For his position, he will be buying a property that's already world-class in many respects. The stadium we all know about, the training ground, the commercial opportunities already in place. Plus, of course, the fact that with Tottenham's historically low wages to revenue spend of only 43% of their 600 million income going on wages, there's a capacity to spend a huge amount more without having any problems meeting financial rules, whether that be Premier League PSR or UEFA squad cost ratio requirements. The Spurs fans have long argued that the owners value profit over success. Potentially they have new owners whose focus will be success rather than profit.
So there you go. That's friend of the show, Martin Lipton there. It's an interesting story because, again, many would have seen and heard Martin on this show before. Massive Tottenham fan. Been on here many occasions on Last Word on Spurs. I know many will jump to the fact that he works for The Sun. I know some feel The Sun isn't the most reliable of sources when it comes to information such as this nature. But what I would say to you is that Martin is a very highly thought of person in the Spurs community, very well-known journalist, knows, I think, a lot behind the scenes when it comes to Tottenham and different things out there. And I think he would have only reported that story in good faith. So, look, Johnny, I'll steer the show over to you, if you don't mind, because I say it's never a dull moment with regards to Tottenham. And I say that news has come to us that, look, there appears to be, again, more interest in the football club. I think, what would that be? The third, the fourth entity that have reared their head in this last, months or so, really, which is quite unique given the fact that it does feel that right now we're having a lot of reports around takeovers that in the last kind of 5, 6, 7 years, why do we never get this to date? I mean, what do you make of that view and how reliable or genuine do you believe that to be? Because there was a statement come through from, I think that there's a statement that's come out from the Takeover panel that does suggest that this has been a genuine attempt to buy the football club.
Yeah, I mean, look, they, under the takeover rules, the ENIC consortium got to formalise an offer or withdraw by 5 p.m. I think it's on the 24th of October. So he has 3-4 weeks. I think you saw on his Instagram or on his Twitter that he's posted a countdown clock. What do you make of this guy? I would look at it right now as a guy that's maybe seeking publicity. It might be a publicity stunt. It could be speculative. He did try to buy a stake in the Maserati F1 team, which fell apart. So maybe he's a chancer. Obviously, there's a possibility, but he's in technical engineering. He's in. He's got a company called Algorithm Capital, which is investment and venture capitalist, and he's involved in blockchain. So I think, I think he's probably a guy that understands how to manipulate social media, so to speak. Mind you, you wouldn't think that when you're looking at the fact he's only got 11,000 followers on Instagram. Hardly a social media guru, I would say, based on that. But it seems Tottenham or ENIC can deny they've got any interest in selling the club. My comment is, if you have no interest in selling the stake, we know, or Daniel has stated many times, that they need money for the capital intensive projects, which are or were the hotel, White Webs, Hotspur Way, and the housing development and the sports entertainment complex, or the sports performance complex. And that's going to be hundreds of millions of pounds. Now, where's that money going to come from? The ENIC have not been a company that have piled loads of money in. Why are they still with Rothschilds? If there's no money required from the new owners, why are they still with Rothschilds? Why haven't Rothschilds saying we're no longer representing ENIC or Tavistock or whoever that they're meant to be representing, because there is no longer any interest in selling the club? They have to bring in money from somewhere for these projects. We saw the £100 million loan that came in, sort of the payday loan. But isn't it strange, guys, how, I was commenting about Jonathan Goldstein bringing in Todd Boehly. Jonathan Goldstein is a big Spurs fan, property developer, and he's the guy that brought in Todd Boehly to look at buying Spurs with Clear Lake Capital. But that fell down due to the rumoured fact that Daniel wanted to stay on board as the CEO of the company. We then know that he moved on to Chelsea, and the rest is history there. But there have been rumours of other purchases, but that's all they were. They were rumours, Ricky. But now that Daniel has been removed forcibly, it's strange now that we've had 3 rumoured bids. How much credibility each of those rumoured bids are, or have, should I say, is open to debate. But this one just seems a bit left field, because it doesn't, it says there's 12 members of the consortium who are involved in NFL. And if you look at the valuations, for me, of the NFL franchises, some of these NFL franchises are producing far less profit and turnover than Tottenham Hotspur, but yet have a far greater value, sell-on value. And I just think that, it's perfect synergy for me that an American company or a sports investment company who is already involved in American football would be looking to invest into Spurs and couple it with potential franchise acquirement for Spurs to couple the two together. Because if you amalgamate the two, you've got an asset worth a serious amount of money. But time will tell. 3 or 4 weeks, we will know.
We will. Quite interestingly, just so that everyone knows out there, there's 11 out of the 20 Premier League clubs now that are owned by Americans, which again is a fascinating stat and something obviously bear in mind and keep an eye on. Ash, bringing you in, I think it's worth saying at this stage that the response has been that the club is unequivocally not for sale. That's what's being made clear from the Tottenham perspective at the moment. And they have said on this point, an informal expression of interest from a consortium led by Brooklyn ENIC as obviously had this approach, but they say the board of the club and it reconfirmed Tottenham is not for sale and ENIC is not looking to sell its stake in the club. Now, ENIC's consortium is required by no later, as you said there, Johnny, by 5 p.m. on the 24th of October to either announce a firm intention to make an offer or announce that they do not intend to do so. But Spurs are really doubling down on the fact from their perspective, club isn't for sale. I mean, actually, it's very interesting, isn't it? Again, like Johnny said there, 3 reported bids, really in the space of 6 to 8 weeks we've had. It's fascinating, really, because you think, why are these all coming out now? What's been happening for the last 23 years?
Exactly.
There must have been interest. There must have been interest beforehand, right? And we're only hearing this interest as of now.
Yeah, this is it, man. So I remember when we first acquired the stadium and everyone was waiting to hear about the naming rights for the stadium.
Yep.
And we're still waiting. But obviously, a certain man at the helm is no longer there. So it'll be interesting to see if that speeds up or if that stays the same. But I think in terms of what the family group want to do, the ENIC group, maybe they want to have their, I don't know, ambitions kind of, put out there to say like, this is how we wanted to run the club. Obviously, the club was run by Daniel Levy, and now it's our turn to have a slice of it or a go. And maybe they feel like with the right investment that they put in, that they can do things that some of the fans want. It could be as simple as that. And so maybe that's the reason why also there's been rejections from the other bidders coming in and they're saying no. Yeah. So either way, I think a lot of the fans, what they want compared to what reality is they want like a firm or an ownership that's going to be, if not English owned, just run well or sustainably in the right way. So it comes across that we're ethical and we're not like the rest of them in terms of oil or, American based and
or nation state owned.
Nation state. Exactly. Because of how we look. And I put 2 question marks with that because I personally don't think there's any squeaky clean billionaire out there or squeaky clean millionaire. I don't think ENIC will be the cleanest. And I need to watch my mouth, because
I think we all do.
They are the owners.
We won't be back for every episode.
but I'll be being naive. Am I being naive by thinking that, like everyone's got a past and money has a trail, do you know what I mean? Without going too further or too deep into it. So if some people will be like, it's the devil, or do you go for something that, maybe like the other clubs, they've gone on, they've kicked on and they've gone on to do great stuff. So I think lots of people are looking at Liverpool as the blueprint because Liverpool, they've been run in a certain way. They're achieving success and they're actually, going into the market and they're buying Isaacs, etc. So, but we all know life isn't as straightforward as that. But, time will tell. As Johnny's already said, they're looking to, insert 100 mil from that loan. And that's coming in January. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see what their first intention, their first window really looks like post Levy. Do you know what I mean? But I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but I think some fans aren't happy with Levy being shown a door in terms of not being able to get back in, his stuff being delivered by a van. And so people think, what's the narrative is that, Kane was shown a door and he wasn't allowed back in. So why should we feel sorry for Levy?
Yo was sacked at half time.
Exactly. So there's no smoke without fire. But other fans are saying, just because that happened to them doesn't mean we should do that to Levy.
I promise you, we're going to come on. I promise you, we'll touch on that subject in a second. But I mean, it's very interesting, Ash. But just in your opinion at the moment, do you feel the club is angling for a sale at the moment, Ash? Do you think that personally, or do you think they are invested? Because
so do you know
Thomas Frank has said in his press conference, for those that aren't aware, that he is 120% confident that the Lewis family want to give this a go. Want to give this a go, Ash, very quickly on that point?
Yeah. No, I said it at the start. I honestly think that that's what their ammo is, and they're going to try and do it their way to show it wasn't them that was messing up the club, and they want to have it. And also, they've taken over from their father, who was the one that left it in charge with Daniel Levy to run. So that's my personal opinion.
Okay.
But we'll see. We'll see if it's a bluff. You know what I mean?
We'll see. Lube, to bring you in, I mean, just everybody who does know out there, like we said earlier, earlier this month, there's been an Asian consortium of investors led by Dr. Roger Kennedy and Wing Fei Ng through Firehawk Holdings Limited that indicated an informal intention to make an offer for Spurs on the day Levy left his role. You've had Amanda Staley and PCP International Finance Limited also believed to have shown enough interest without actually making an actual indication of a forthcoming bid. Then you had PCP later make it clear they would not be making an offer. We've had this latest now one with regards to the DJ that's interested in running the decks at Tottenham. What's happening, Lubes? What's happening?
Let me come at it as a fan. I think it's very good for Spurs.
Okay.
Because the highest valuation I've seen from any of the major people was
Lubo's buzzing by this subject, you can tell. Go on, Luke.
Technician with him.
Highest valuation was 2.8 billion by Forbes. That Forbes put it out a few months ago. So these guys are turning down a $500 million premium to carry on, knowing also that this consortium want to put a further 1.2 billion into the club, to cash in bank, which they're going to use on whatever. But obviously, they'll use it on Whiteweb's the Whiteweb's development. They'll use it for the hotel, the NFL, the women's pitch. But there'll be a substantial amount out of 1.2 billion that will be spent on players and wages. So that puts pressure on the Lewis family. If they're turning it down, they can't just turn around and say, "Oh, there's 100 million." They've got to put in a lot of money now, or spend a lot of money to placate the fans, because the fans are no fools. And for me, we've been. For me, I'm quite vociferous. I have been very vociferous with Levy out. He's not the only one. Joe Lewis has been running the show, and for me, it's the two of them now. If the kids have taken over from their father, and they're looking at it in a slightly different way, and they've sort of they've seen the week in May when we won the Europa League and the parade, and they've actually seen, do you know what, this club's massive. This club is a sleeping giants. There's so much we could do here. To be measured, Levy's done very well commercially, and the club's set up, it's the best turnkey operation in the Premier League. Someone comes in, you look at Chelsea and United, they've got to spend fortunes on grounds. We don't have to do that. We don't have to do that for the training ground. Everything's in place. There's events galore going on at the ground as well.
Yep.
And for me, it's perfectly positioned now for the Lewis family to sell the club at a premium. Take the money. If they took 3.3 billion, their investment in the club, which has been basically to dilute everybody else's shares, they put in 250 million, and to walk out with 3.3, you're looking at over 13 times, which is a fantastic return. So for me, if they're not going to take that return, and they're going to turn down an offer that puts 1.2 billion working capital into the club, then they've got to be seen to be doing big things. So for me, as Ash said, is it a bluff? Time will tell. But unless people are going to look at them and say, "Well, you're all mouth and no trousers," basically, they've got to start putting money and they've got to start investing. So
gut feeling both for you though. Do you think they are angling for a sale, or do you think potentially they are looking to give this a go? What's your gut tell you?
My gut tells me the club will be sold within 12 months.
Okay, interesting. Look, we are going to go and squeeze in our first break of the show for our listeners and audio. Lubo, I know you're buzzing, but you literally are buzzing. So we're going to let Lubo sort out his buzzer, and we are going to go for.
He's shaving. He's shaving at the same time as he's doing his show.
I tell you what, you got to be a multitasker on this show. You got to be a multitasker on this show. Just ask my wife. Tell you got to be a multitasker on this show to survive. We are going to go for our first break of the show, for our listeners on audio. We have got over already nearly 4,500 of you watching us live. As always, guys, thank you ever so much for all your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. Now, we got another big announcement in this last week. And for those that aren't aware, yes, we are Last Word on Spurs finalists for the upcoming Football Content Awards in both Best Podcast in Premier League, Best in Social Creators. As I always say, guys, the show is not possible without the wonderful contributors that give up so much time for this show. And, of course, you, the amazing audience, the listeners and viewers that make this show what it is every single week, sometimes every single day, depending on what Spurs do to us and what crisis they might drop. But we want to say again, a massive thank you for all your support. If you want to support the show, help us bring home another trophy. You can do that by smashing that QR code for those that are watching the show. For those that are listening on audio, there's an episode description link you can click into, and you can vote for Last Word on Spurs in those two above categories: Best Podcast in Premier League and, of course, Best in Social Creators. We're also supporting the wonderful guys, Ben and Sim, over at We Are Tottenham TV. They're in for the Club Creator Award. Please make sure you go over there and share them some love. As we go for that first break, we are going to turn our attention to next what is even more big news around Tottenham, ENIC and Daniel Levy, where I have to say this again just to get my words correct here. According to The Athletic, Daniel Levy is at the moment no longer allowed into the premises at Tottenham. So that is where we are turning our attention to next during this show. Because look, everyone knows Daniel Levy has been part of Tottenham for the last quarter of a century. Really, Tottenham, everything about them revolved around Daniel Levy. That's the way it's always been. But The Athletic has reported that when Daniel Levy was sacked on September the 4th, he wasn't even allowed to enter the training centre to retrieve his possessions, nor was his wife Tracy, who worked at the club until the day Daniel Levy was sacked. Their belongings were eventually returned by a van. This is quite a crazy story to come out, and it's very, very intriguing. Johnny, I'll come to you. I've seen some fans say it's disgraceful. I've seen some fans say it's karma. What goes around comes around. Where are you, Johnny, on this story about Daniel Levy at the moment not being allowed back in to the premises of Tottenham to that degree that is now whatever he's left behind at the club training ground is being delivered back to him by a van?
Cue violins. Listen, you reap what you sow, I believe. Look, I think this is normal corporate procedure. When you are being shown the door, or the people who are the bosses aren't happy with your performance, you're normally asked to hand in your computer, hand your stuff, and you're asked to leave. Is this any different to what happened to Martin Jol or to Pochettino or to anyone else? Probably not. So I just think that this is pretty standard, I would have thought, but it does come across as pretty harsh for someone that's been there for 25 years and, still retains 26% of the 87% of the holding. So, but, he's done it to others. And so, but just to say, if Daniel is watching tonight, I do have a spare ticket for Wolves. So if he wants to come and join me in the South Stand, he's more than welcome. I'm sure he'll get a tremendous welcome from the fan base. He can come and see a few songs.
You're not next to Lubin, are you?
No, he can come and get a Korean chicken burger and come and sit with me in the South Stand. Maybe join him with the trumpet and a few of the songs. Look, I think the thing is, it is what it is. There's been an internal investigation authorized by Joe Lewis and the family to investigate what has been going on at the club. Why are these deals not going through? And one of the ways, just to quickly just go backwards a little bit, one of the ways of the club receiving money without giving away a single percentage of their holding is to sell the naming rights. If you're going to sell up maybe a 10-year naming rights deal for 25 million a year, 250 million, or potentially a 20-year deal whereby they pay a large percentage up front, that would give them the funds to do some of these capital intensive projects that we've seen mentioned before. But it just seems strange, Ricky, that why was none of this done before? You know, when Daniel was going around the city looking for money and he couldn't get it, and he had to go to Rothschild's. Why now? This is the story that's hard for the fans to take on board. You know, when we talk about the kids are taking over, they ain't kids, right? They're 60, 62, 63 years of age, right? So why now? They are going to need, look, if this story is true and the guy before the 24th of October puts in a bid, as Lubo said, if the bid is genuine and they put that bid in, then it's up to the ENIC board to now show through and put in the sort of money or the sort of collateral that these guys are putting up. But my feeling is that this deal will wither into the background and become nothing. So therefore, you can only expect ENIC to put in the sort of money of a realistic bid. But I'll back on that. ENIC he's reaped what he's sowed. The investigation is showing that he's the cock block and therefore he had to go. He's been taken away and that is what it is. He's still, listen, don't feel sorry for Daniel because at the end of the day, you know, he's done this to so many people, whether it be managers or other staff members, but he's going to be handsomely rewarded for his fantastic endeavours off the pitch. He will be handsomely rewarded and he deserves to be.
Ash, I'll bring you on that story, you know, because again, I've seen a mixture of different feeling about this. Again, I said that point, you know, some feel it's disgraceful. Some feel it's almost like Johnny said that you kind of reap what you sow. I mean, we've seen Min-hyeok be sacked at half time. We saw Pochettino not be able to say goodbye. Harry Kane not be able to say goodbye. There's also some feeling out there that maybe, you know, with the ownership, this might have been an opportunity to maybe act in a different way. It's difficult because we have to say this as well. We don't quite know really what is happening inside the club. We can all have our assumptions. We can all think and speculate and whatever, but we don't know what's actually happening behind closed doors and what is going on. What we do know is Daniel Levy still owns quite a significant proportion of the football club. You know, again, for those that are out there, that's 29.88%. Daniel Levy owns of the football club. You know, Lewis Family Trust, they own 70.12. What's your gauge and reading is that for you?
Yeah, I have to echo on what some of you guys said already in terms of ruthlessness. You know, he's going to go home to his £1 million mansion and he can retire if he wants to. He can go to the Bahamas and cry in a yacht or cry in a Ferrari, you know. A lot of people are feeling sorry for him, but I guarantee you, he won't be giving no money to you guys or giving you free tickets, etc. There was times when we had concessions. There was times we had flags. You know, there was times when the elderly weren't looked after, disabled. Like the list goes on, and it's not even just about material things in terms of us not like quite getting the players that we wanted. I think he's actually upset quite a few people, not just the fans, but maybe the higher ups, and maybe that's the reason why they're being so ruthless. And I think to them, business is business. Do you know what I'm saying? And they'll be saying, who cares? You know, we're making a big deal of song and dance about it. But for them in their world, this is how they work. They're ruthless. They got in Vinay, you know, from Arsenal. And they literally did a video with him and Levy together. And apparently Vinay had no idea what was going on. But once you're moving ruthless, and as Johnny's already said, they've done investigations way before we knew what was going on, maybe a year and a half. They had someone there to investigate and watch Levy do some of his dealings. Look about what was happening with the hotels. Look at what was happening with the future plans of the apartments behind the hotels. And maybe they put that investigation together, seeing how the windows operated or previous windows have operated, and they've come to this conclusion. So, like you said, Ricky, we don't know. We're only speculating at the moment. We can only go off the little knowledge that we do have.
Yep.
There could be information. I think the other fan, to look at the other side of it, because a lot of people, like you said, are quite upset. They're looking maybe at what he's achieved for the club in terms of building the stadium, financially putting us in a position from where we were in the late 90s or the early 2000s to where we are now in terms of a financial big six club. Maybe they're looking at it, maybe it's a bit harsh on that side, but listen, look, business is business, and we in big business right now. So that's what I've got to say about it.
Yeah, Lubes, your thoughts on this? It's an interest. I mean, I say people might think we did this deliberately and brought you back on just for this story. Honestly, you just couldn't make timing up. It wasn't deliberate, I promise you. You know, we had Lube booked for this show way in advance, Tottenham. Just, you know, we had Lube booked way in advance for this show. The Athletic dropped the story. We didn't. Lube, let's get your reaction to that story. Daniel Levy, like we say, at the moment, not being able to enter the training ground or the stadium and having his possessions sent back to him via a van.
The story's not complete, is it, from the Athletic? The question is why? That's what I want to know. Why has he been taken straight off the premises and out, and his wife as well? That's the question.
Yep.
You know, and that's the question that the Athletic, you know, if you take a story so far, finish the story, complete the story. Let's not get half the story. Joe, the Lewis family brought in consultants. When a company bring in consultants to look at a situation, then normally, I mean, my son's in consultancy. I spoke to him about it. He said, you know, what he's learned is that consultants come in to possibly back up what the owners are thinking. You know, they're given a remit, and they work to that remit. And for me, you know, something must have happened. I reckon this is his godfather. This is his godfather. You know, this is one of his father's best friends, Joe Lewis, who's done this. So something must have happened. This isn't like, well, we've had a disagreement because, you know, the staff prefer fig rolls and not jammy dodgers. There's something's happened here, and what is it? What is it? So, you know, the consultants have come in. They've given the Lewis family their report, and he's gone, and just bang, he's gone. And so what's happened here?
Is he gone though, Lubo? Because he still holds that percentage that we've spoken about. You know, there's a degree of some suggesting that he may have very little control over what he can and can't do. But is there still an influence there, given the fact that he owns that percentage? Do you think?
Well,
I mean,
it makes him a sleeping partner, doesn't it? Basically.
Yep.
Yeah, and he will benefit. Listen, he's done. I think he's been the worst chairman I could ever remember on the football side. Commercially, he's done superb for the club. And as I said before, you know, that he's put the club in a position where people can come in, and the club's in a strong position to for any new purchaser. But for me, the question is, why has he gone? Why has he gone so immediate? You know, 1 minute he's there, next minute he's gone. You know, and this was his life. His work. His work was his life. His life was his work. You know, he spent so many hours on Tottenham Hotspur, on the whole thing, that I think, you know, let's be interesting to know what happened.
Do you think at some point, Lubo, do you think he will be allowed back in the?
No, I don't. I don't think we'll know what happened unless it's leaked somewhere. I think if something's happened that isn't that's not orthodox, then they won't want the brands diminished or besmirched or whatever. If that's happened,
okay.
If there's been a big bust up, you know, it's the sort of news that you keep in house. You don't air your dirty linen in public.
Yep.
So whatever has happened, whoever's to blame, I don't think it'll come out. But you know, as I said, the Athletic have just given us part of the story.
Okay, Loops, thank you very much. Look, we've got a lot to get through still on this show, so we are going to go for our next break. For our listeners and audio, we have got still over 4,500 of you that are watching us live, as always. Thank you ever so much for all your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. Let's come on to a story that still will not go away again in this last week or so, and it becomes a story that maybe does hot up as his contract runs down, despite Bayern suggesting they want to do everything in their power to keep Harry Kane. These rumours don't go away. Let's come over to you, Johnny, and get your take on this Harry Kane story that, again, there's been suggestions in this last 24 hours that there's been even a report his agent has met with representatives from Tottenham about potentially rejoining the club. Now, it must also be said that Bayern director of sport, Max Erbel, has said he's old enough to make a decision, Harry, whether it's a clause or no clause whatsoever. If he says he wants to make a decision, then he'll make it, as he showed it at Tottenham. But our wish, of course, is for Harry to be very, very successful with us this season and into the future. He has been in terrific form for Bayern this season. He scored 13 goals in 7 games so far, bringing his tally to 98 goals in 103 appearances for the German champions. He's in absolutely scintillating form at the moment. Johnny, gut feeling on Harry Kane. I know the story just keeps coming up at the moment, so we have to keep covering it. What's your gut telling you? Can you see Harry back in the Premier League, back at Tottenham?
I love the story. His agent, the person who wrote the story, as if he didn't actually know that Charlie is his brother. You know, it even mentioned Charlie, his brother, you know, being the agent. So I give zero validity to the story. It's clickbait, in my opinion. But look, the fact of the matter is, he's got a 67 million buyout clause. If Harry himself states before the January window that he wants to leave in the summer, if he doesn't state, and if he does state before that date, then he can go in the summer for 57 million. At which stage he will be 33 years of age. Personally, I think he'd love to go to Barcelona and follow Robert Lewandowski. The problem is Barcelona really struggling to raise anywhere near that sort of money. Look, the issue here is, like, would I like to see Harry Kane back at Spurs? Like, you know, who wouldn't, right? The problem is, if he comes back to Spurs, then forget about trying to sign an up-and-coming striker to play alongside him, because no one's going to want to come. We had this for years. You know, Harry is untouchable. Harry is undroppable. But God forbid he gets an injury. You can't, you know, you need a backup. And of course, at that sort of age, that's more likely, especially those ankles. Would I like to see him back? Yeah. I mean, listen, you know, who wouldn't want to see Harry Kane scoring goals for us? But does his ambition? Listen, I think it would very much depend on Spurs' ambition. You know, talk is cheap. Talk from ENIC is cheap. Talk from us is cheap. If we go on in this January transfer window and ENIC makes statement spending, and we get this naming rights deal, and we you know, we're going to buy nothing but the best, then there's every chance that we could bring him back. Why not? But as we stand right now, I don't think we are, you know, we don't look like we're ready to win a title. We don't look like we're quite ready yet to win the Champions League. But who's to say if we do have massive investment and we do show serious intent? Because let's be serious, Cuti Romero, who was definitely leaving if Ange left, has signed a new contract. And that's because the club, or someone within the club, has stated their ambition to him privately. And that has, you know, it wasn't just, you know, making him captain that got him to stay, because he's going to be captain of Argentina anyway. I think they've stated to him that they have intentions to show ambition, and we would have to show that to Harry Kane for him to come back.
John, thank you so much. Let's go to you on that point. Ash, what's your gauge on it for you? The Harry Kane story not going away. The fact of the matter is, though, you have to also bear in mind, he might want to come back to the Premier League, but who says to Tottenham, giving away he left Spurs in such acrimonious circumstances? But again, Daniel Levy not being part of Tottenham, would that have been the blocker that would have made stopped his return? Where are you on that, Ash, for you?
Yeah, I think you put it out there already, man. Yeah, Levy, obviously, he was the one that was in charge of the sale. But he was the one also that put the clause in the contract, wasn't he?
He was.
He was the one to say, if is it first refusal or something along those lines. So
yeah,
there's a possibility, is what I'm saying. And if he is to break that Premier League record, why would he want to go to La Liga to break the? He could become here and set his legacy and foundation down. And we've done it before with other players. So we've had obviously Jurgen Klinsmann come back when he was needed, and he came back almost twice the player, scoring 5 goals. I remember against Wimbledon at one point.
And we always
We've
bring
had
back
players like
Defoe,
Teddy Sheringham.
Bale, Sheringham. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, you just said it. So, there's definitely a possibility of Harry Kane coming back because the fans would adore him, and you could just sell how many shirts. Obviously I forgot the name of it now. The not memorial. The
mural. You're right. The
mural. Yeah.
The mural. You're right.
Yeah.
Yes.
The mural.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's still there. So he would walk in, and I saw pictures of Luka Modric at Real Madrid, and he was coaching Vinicius Jr. how to shoot outside the boot and hit at top bins and showing him different techniques. I could see Kane coming back and coaching certain players, saying, "Look, this is what you got to do." Talking to like certain strikers that we might have at the moment, saying, "Look, this is what you got to do to kind of improve." So, even if he was to come back and he wasn't to be like the number 9 that we thought he was going to be, and he dropped in as he did for Son, and our attacking players were running in behind, I could see him doing that as well and improving players that way because he's now going to the Bundesliga. Sorry, Johnny.
I was just going to say, Ash, because like I know you're hot on formations and tactics, right? You're the guy, right? So I was just wondering, Teddy Sheringham, when he came back, he never was blessed with pace, and he dropped into more of a deep line sort of midfield role. Now we know that Harry Kane can spread the ball. Are you saying that are you thinking that he could come back in and play more of a 10 role or a role like that, deeper behind a striker?
This is what I was trying to hint at, Johnny, because when he was playing for us, he was very hard to knock off the ball. He's a player that could pin his man, drop in at midfield, and then it would take about 2 or 3 touches, and he'll be able to ping a ball either down a channel or switch the play, literally find someone, and it'll literally get there. I saw the other day he did like a nice daisy cutter across the field. Beautiful. Right? One time he hit a ball on a half volley, and it's literally gone like a diag into the person's feet. So we all know that his technique is there and it's improving, and him coming back, I think, would elevate the team and give the fans what they want, but ultimately boost the current players that are actually there. And as I said before, because of his age, he could be coaching and improving players literally on the pitch, because we know one thing about Thomas Frank, he never actually played professional football. He's more of a teacher, but to have a man on the grass that's currently playing, I know obviously you got Cochrane there. He's obviously good at improving players. We've got coaching staff that have been playing football, but to have someone that's actually gone across Europe, gone to Bundesliga at the top level, played in Champions League year after year, gotten that golden boot, was in the Ballon d'Or, we should have been a bit higher in my opinion, but to have that, I think the academy kids would be loving it. They would be looking up to him, and the players would be in awe. And so I just think, him coming back, Romero captaining, I think, that could really do something for us. That's just my opinion, though. May it be deluded or not, may it happen or not, it might be.
Who knows? Who knows? It keeps going back around the story, so we feel like we have to keep talking about him. Lewis, bringing you in on that, this could be a good potential win for the Lewis family if they were to bring someone back, as we know what Harry Kane was revered for the fans. I just wonder, maybe with the fact now that with Daniel Levy no longer on the scene, does that make this more of a potential move to happen now Daniel isn't around at Tottenham? What's your gauge for you? Can you see Harry Kane back? And it also come down to the point there, I know Johnny said that for him, it could him going to a Barcelona. Does he have a interest in trying to chase down that Alan Shearer record of 260 Premier League goals? Because given his form at the moment, he's had 98 goals, 103 appearances for Bayern Munich. You think if he's here for a couple of seasons, he could even achieve that still. So where are you on that?
Where am I on that? Personally, I think number one, the fact Levy's no longer at the club, I think is a massive plus. Secondly, he was very close with Sonny. They lived around the corner to each other. Used to come to training every day together. He will look at Sonny winning a trophy, which is all he wanted to do at Spurs, and he left to win trophies because the club didn't have the ambition that he had. So for me, if he'll see the club's moved on substantially, significantly since he left. We have a trophy under our belt now, a European trophy, biggest trophy in 40 odd years. And I think he will look at it. From a personal point of view, he's Tottenham's leading goal scorer. He's England's leading goal scorer. I think he will want to be the Premier League's leading goal scorer. And I just want to hark back just to finish off that I was sitting at Spurs last October when we played Alkmaar in the group stage. A guy came up and sat next to me just by chance. He wasn't part of the automatic cup scheme, so he'd ended up buying a ticket late and sat next to me. And this was a guy that I used to see a few years ago, and we all laughed at him when he said, through a contact of his, Bale's coming back to Spurs for a year. We all laughed, and he sat next to me and he said, "Do you remember that story where you all took the mickey out of me because you all thought, I was talking nonsense? So-and-so had told me that, who knew Bale's family, that Bale was coming back. You all laughed. You all made fun of me." He said, "Well, I'll give you some more news. Harry's coming back in the summer of 26. He said, "You're not taking the mickey now, are you?" So I said, "No, I'm not. Let's see if it comes off." So if the ITK that got Bale right is spot on with Kane, then Kane's coming back. And I would love to think, I'd love to see him at Spurs.
Not Jeff, is it?
Sorry? No, it's not Jeff. It would lift the whole club. Can you imagine? Kane coming back. We've had a really good season under Frank, which I'm not saying we're going to win any trophies, but I think we're going to have a really good, a strong year.
Yeah.
Kane comes back in.
It'd be a fanfare, wouldn't it? It'd be incredible. Yeah, be a fanfare. I mean, it would be incredible. You saw when Lubin on that point. You saw when Bale came back, what it was like for him to come back. Kane comes back, that's on another level, isn't it? Do you think?
Yes. It was a shame with Bale. I saw Bale when he came on as a sub at Wembley when we had 4,000 seats, because that was COVID year.
Yeah, COVID year.
And I got my ticket for the last game of the season when, again, they were only giving 8,000 out, was it, at the time when we played Villa. So they were the only two occasions I saw Bale live. It was a real shame because that was the COVID season when we watched the matches on TV. And Kane on a different level to Bale's. Bale's world class, and so is Kane. So a similar level for me. It'll be fantastic. Get him back for a couple of years.
Absolutely. Well, you need to spark there, Johnny, a search party for Jeff. And everyone was going to find out where's Jeff? Who's Jeff? Find Jeff. Get Jeff on here. Can we get Jeff? Listen, don't worry. Jeff is not the man.
Jeff is more famous. Jeff is more famous.
No. It was a chap called Howard who told me. I'm just hoping Howard's correct.
So you don't give out his address, you'll be all right. I think you'll be all right if you don't give out his address.
I also, Ricky, I've just checked, before we finish that Kane point, Bayern Munich won 4-1, right? But Kane wasn't playing the number 9. He was in the actual 10 behind the captain.
There you go.
There you go. She's thinking ahead.
Teddy, listen, Teddy was a great player, striker, but, he was never blessed with pace. And neither was Harry Kane ever. So he's worked on, he has the guile, but this is a guy who was never born Harry Kane. He never became Harry. He became Harry Kane over years and years and years of non-stop working on the pitch, on his technique. Especially when Christian Eriksen left and we didn't have a 10, suddenly, dropping deep and providing us that role that was solely missing. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, listen, there's actually a lovely little moment in Frank's presser, which I implore you to watch again. I'm not just saying this to kind of, people might think I'm blowing smoke up his arse, but, I really do enjoy it. And Ashley's laughing because this might wind up Jason McGovern, but I really do enjoy Thomas Frank's pressers. They're honestly so thoroughly enjoyable when you listen to the guy. And he was saying how much he admired seeing Christian Eriksen and Dele Alli link up. And it's really hard to not, bring a smile to your face when you think about the fact that the manager who's now managing us remembers that amazing partnership they had, with Dele and Eriksen, the way they would link up with goals. You had Dele, obviously Kane in there as well. It was called the famous desk, wasn't it? We had the desk. We had Dele, we had Eriksen, we had Sonny, we had Kane. It was such a formidable foursome. If we could get back to that, obviously that kind of level of play that we had in that time would be absolutely remarkable.
That's what Frank says, when he talks about relationships and how important relationships are. With the way he sets up his team, and the diagonal pass from Toby that Dele used to run onto. And we've seen, he often talked about, we used to watch Brentford videos back in the day, how relationships between players, understanding, the best parts of their game, what's no good for the player. And once that understanding, and they understand each other so well, their game and their performances go up and they complement each other. Right now, we're trying to make those understandings. Right now, I think the only one that's really working for me is Pedro Porro and Kudus. Right? Okay. Hopefully in time, we'll see others.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed we will see others. One partnership or part of a partnership we're not going to see, it looks like at the moment, is going to be Savinho in a Tottenham shirt. He is now close to agreeing a new contract with Manchester City. It will be a new and improved terms that he'll sign on the dotted line. He was already under contract until 2029. This new agreement is set to keep him to the club until 2031. Like I say, a vast improvement on the wages. It's set to reflect his positive first season in England and status as one of the club's key young players. Guardiola made it clear in the summer that didn't really want to sell him, and he said at the time he was very keen for Savinho to stay there for many, many years. Ash, you shared the screen with me for a lot of those transfer shows where Spurs were hoping to get a deal done for him, didn't get it done. Now he's about to sign a new contract with City. Have we missed out on a very, very exciting talent? So you were very much a fan of him in the summer, but it is now appearing to be dead in the water.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I don't want to put all of our eggs in the Savinho basket. And that's why I was like, wait until January is a dangerous game, because we missed out on this forward. And now we could have got a left winger in the summer. Wait until January to rectify that. Normally you use January to rectify any injuries. You don't go for like targets that you missed out in summer. And there's every chance that Man City would have injuries, which they have had. And now they're looking to tie down Savinho. They don't want to, like their chairman came out and said, or one of their board directors came out and said, they don't want a Cole Palmer 2.0.
I think Ferran Serrano, we said at the time, Ferran Serrano was, I think, the big blocker in that deal. Ferran Serrano, I think, didn't want him to go. Difficult, very, very difficult. I mean, but again, he wasn't playing too many games. But like you said, Ash, they're key. They've had some injuries, and the fact of the matter is, Ash, they're looking to time down long term.
Yeah, and I think Spurs need to now look at other targets and identify them very quickly and move on. And when we do identify a target, we just need to kind of just all guns blazing, just get that guy done. And I think that's why I was a big fan. I know not all fans were fans of him, but I saw the market of an established player at Atalanta and Lubin. I thought he was ready to go. I know he's not the same age profile. And I think maybe that's what the club were looking at, someone that could. But sometimes you just need to go for what's available and what's ready now. And we do have quite a few young players in the squads that can operate on the left. So I just think bringing in a senior player that's more established, that can help develop the youngsters as well, that would make more sense to me if that player is available. And I know Ryder didn't go for him because there wasn't an option, because they wanted an option just in case it didn't work out. And maybe they saw him as a high risk. But there's not too many, in my opinion, top left wingers in the world right now, especially in the Premier League. So you're going to have to shop overseas, and whoever you take will be a risk, in my opinion. So, but yeah, Savinho, look, it is what it is. So it was a big miss out. He does play on the right. He doesn't play on the left for Man City. But obviously we know that at his previous club, Girona, he did play a lot of games on the left. And maybe that's the reason why we were going to use him as a number one left winger. But it would be good to have a left winger that actually plays left wing.
Yeah, should have got Lukman. Should have got Lukman, Ash. Right, you hit the nail on the head, man. Right, he's crying out. Goal scorer, assister, strength, power, experience. You know, can do it on the big stage. Scores the hat trick in the Europa League final. He ticked all the boxes. I'm not quite sure what happened. As you say,
is it weird though, Johnny? Just on him quickly on that. Is it bizarre though? Because I mean, we spoke this on deadline day. I think Lubin was on the show as well that day, and you was as well, Wash. The thing with Lukman is, from what we heard, he was offered around Europe to everybody, and no one took him.
Well, that's not quite true. That's not quite true, because Inter Milan wanted to sign him, but Atalanta were staying strong with the valuation they put on him, and in the end, they couldn't match that deal, so they had to go elsewhere. And then, you know, this is the problem: if you put all your eggs in one basket, and it doesn't come off, then you're left holding the baby. And this is what happened with Lookman. And he ended up very unhappy, and he was actually dropped out the squad. He's only just been brought back into the squad this weekend, I believe. Sorry.
Also, Johnny, he's also in the same agency as Mohamed Kudus, who we signed at the start of the window. So we could have easily got him.
Should have been someone, even if it's a loan with an option, right? This was the deal that made Spurs, like, taking Spurs to another level now. Because had you had him on that left-hand side with Jed Spence and Kudus on the other side with Simmons in the middle and Kolo Muani up front as a counter-attacking team, we've scared the living daylights out of people. But right now, our left side is looking shabby.
Well, on that point of the left side, Lou, better come back to you. Obviously, it won't be Savinho now on that left-hand side now. We can say that for sure. Interesting. Danny K makes an interesting point. Danny's asking, could Savio have a release clause in his contract if he signs a new deal in case a club comes in for him? But I think that would look very strange now. Dan agrees on that point. I think it'd be very hard now to see how City go and sell him in another window or two if they've now tied him down. But look, strange things have happened in football. You never quite know. Is that a problem for you, that left-hand side, Lubo? The fact that we didn't address that during the window, and now the fact Savinho, there was talks Tottenham might return for him, has now or is going to pen that long-term contract with City?
Yes, it will hamper results to an extent. There'll be a percentage of results. You know, you look, if we'd have bought a left winger, then yes, I think the results between now and Christmas would have been slightly better. I think Frank will get us through that. I do think, for me, there's only one player they should go, and if the Lewis kids want to make a statement to the fans, then you go and stick £70 million in front of Bournemouth and say we want Semenyo in January.
What a player he is!
Right, that's what he was on for. I don't think anybody went for it.
No.
70 million, and if it costs 80 million, you get him for 80 million. It doesn't, you know. If at the end of the day, sometimes you underpay, you get it. Sometimes you get a steal like Bergman at 8.5 million. And other times you've got to pay over the top. It's like, you know, you see a house you want to buy and it's slightly more than you want to pay, but you really want it that much. You find the extra money, and it's the same with the player. Go and find the extra money, bring Semenyo in, then you've got a front. Then you've got a front line, and then you bring Kane in the summer. Next year, it'll be frightening.
Don't sound that player. I've got to say, I mean, watching him against us for Bournemouth, he is a unit. Electric. He is an absolute unit. He's got pace. You know, he's got such an engine on him. He's a big guy as well. It's intriguing with that one with Semenyo, because I do think to myself, for him on that, I'll let you come and answer this, Johnny. For him to have signed a new contract at Bournemouth, again, we've got to be careful around release clauses given what we went for with Gibbs White. But you'd imagine there must be, for him to have signed a new deal at Bournemouth, there must be a get out in there for him, surely, as a player, because to committed for, I don't know if he committed a number of years, but I mean, maybe they were up in his salary. To sign a new contract there must be a way of getting out of that contract for him if some club can hit a certain thing. Because I agree with Lubo. I think if you're looking now at genuine players that could elevate Tottenham, I honestly agree with him that Semenyo, I think, would be a player that I honestly think would take Tottenham to that next level on that side. If you've got him and Kudus, teams will not know where to go. And you've got Simmons in the middle, and who knows, Kolo Muani up top. We can't talk about Solanke right now. Can't keep the guy fit. But your thoughts on that, Johnny?
Listen, Bournemouth are a well-run outfit. You know, they sold us Solanke for 65 million. Never looked back. Used the money on Evan Nilsson. Bought in Huyson and bought in Zabani and Kirkes. Then this summer they sell the three of those defenders for over 150, 160 million.
Yeah, been remarkable.
They sell Contera for 45 million to Brentford.
Yeah,
and what have they bought in? They bought in Sensei, who's already looking a really good player. They bought in Trossard from Rennes. They already look like a solid outfit. They know exactly what they're doing. But there's only so many players that you can sell in a window. And they probably turned around to Semenyo and said, look, we can't sell everybody, mate. Here's a new contract. We're going to pay you a vastly greater sum. If he has another season like he's had last season and he continues in that vein, then someone might well come in for him. But believe me, Bournemouth will only be selling for the right amount of money. Their talent ID has been absolutely spot on. And let's be honest, when most people saw that them selling those three defenders, the core of their defence and Quintera, most people thought that if anyone was going to struggle this season, it was going to be Bournemouth. And it's been quite the opposite so far.
Yeah. They have been superb. They really, really have. But look, it is last word on Spurs. It's not last word on Bournemouth. So what we are going to do, we're going to steer you away from Bournemouth. We're going to steer you towards Wolves. Is that a good or a bad thing, given our recent record there? Some would argue it's not a good thing we're steering you towards Wolves. But for our listeners on audio, we've got Dave over at Talking Wolves. That is going to give you the in-depth view into Wolves. So make sure you check that out for those that are en route to the stadium tomorrow. Check out that great preview from Dave over at Talking Wolves. That is where we're going to next on this final break of the show on this last one on Spurs. We have got over 5,500 of you watching us live. Thank you so much for your support. Ash is back from Spurs Kings TV. We've got Johnny and we've got Lubo. Johnny from Football Inc. and Lubo, well, both of them together on the Spurs 5. Also, of course, we've gone and got the best two looking ones. Sorry, boys, for the rest of you. Don't take that personally. Right. Let's bring you in the up-to-date news that Thomas Frank gave us in that press conference earlier on the Friday. No fresh injury concerns for Spurs. Same squad involved in the Carabao Cup victory against Doncaster. Pat Matassar has trained, so he is back in the squad. He missed the midweek clash through precaution. Still no roller... I keep going Rolo. Randall Kolo Moani. It's a tongue twister. Randall Kolo Moani still unavailable with that dead leg. Thomas Frank doesn't think he's going to keep him out too long, but still not available for this one. Also, bear in mind as well, Dominic Solanke also still out of this game, although Thomas Frank says relatively positive he'll be back quickly. But I can tell you that even though he thinks he'll be back relatively quickly, wouldn't give us a time frame on it. So make of that what you will. Tottenham trying to bring players back from injury. Everyone knows where that goes and how the rest follows. Radu Dragusin, according to Thomas Frank, he's making his recovery slowly. He will join the first team squad in these next couple of weeks. So obviously, of course, we wish Radu Dragusin all the very, very best. Obviously, recovering from an ACL. So, yeah, that's going to take a bit of time for Dragusin. And given our, like I say, current injury record, no one's going to be putting a expected return date as to when we'll see Dragusin back in a Tottenham shirt. But of course, we do wish him all the very, very best with his recovery. Frank was asked about the fact Tottenham have rejected another takeover for a third time on Friday. Frank said he's confident that the club is not for sale. He said in relation to the Lewis family, and he wanted to make this clear in his press conference, that the owners have been very, very transparent, very, very good at communicating, very, very clear. This club is not for sale. For me personally, I found it a very stable environment in coming in every day, and I've learned a lot over the years. The only thing that helps me and helps the team is that I can do everything I can to focus on the team, and they allow me to do that. Now, to bring in the Wolves element to this, because, look, everybody knows out there, our record with Wolves is quite simply horrific. It is horrific. You know, this Wolves game, to give everybody an idea out there, you know, for those that don't know, we've lost 4 of our last 5 league meetings with Wolves since a 1-0 victory in August of 2022, conceding 2+ goals in each of the last 4 games against them. Wolves have lost only 2 of their last 8 meetings with Tottenham, avoiding defeat in their most recent 2. So the same way we view City as maybe becoming quite an easy, happy hunting ground for us, Wolves maybe see Spurs as the opposite, but obviously they are in horrendous form at the moment. You know, they've had a terrible start to the Premier League season, yet to win a game. They're rooted to the bottom. We are, of course, 3rd at the moment. Thomas Frank says, and what I love about Frank is, for those that went and watched the press conference, Frank already knows Tottenham's record against Wolves, which, again, I just love that when a manager is so clued up in terms of the team he's facing, what our record has been. And Frank said, look, despite them being bottom of the table, we can't take them lightly because our record against them is really, really poor. So, Joe, I'll start with Ash on this. I know we're kind of tight against time here in this 5 minutes. Ash, Wolves to come. Many would say it's got to be a home win, but we've had a difficult record against them, Ash, haven't we?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it already that they got their first win against Everton away in the Carabao Cup. And I was a bit nervous because I was like, it'd be typical if they've had no wins and then they come to us and they get the first win, because they have been a bit of a bogey team for us. So I was slightly happy that they won against Everton, albeit Everton did rotate their team. and they had maybe 6 or 7 of their starters. So they were missing like Grealish and they're top players that normally put in the back of the net. So they were, and when those senior players did come on, then they started looking a bit more shaky, Wolverhampton. So, but the thing I saw was Wolverhampton, they changed their shape from a 3-4-2-1 into a back 4. And when they went to a back 4, they had more control midfield. However, them going to us playing away, I reckon they might go back to a back 3, so they might have less midfielders. So they might go back to their 2 midfield, and therefore we will have more control technically because we'll have the extra man. But it depends on how we play, because lately, from what I've been watching with Thomas, he doesn't really, I'd say, risk it in the middle. So what he normally does is he controls down the flanks, and he will have what I call double width, where you've got your fullback and your winger going down the flanks, and sometimes one of the midfielders will pull wide to make a little triangle. So we've got a numerical advantage against the other team's opponents. So it'll be interesting to see if we adopt that and still push up high and can penetrate them. So I think, will Odobert get a start again? Will he get another chance? I think these are the type of questions that fans want to know. Richarlison, I think, will start because, Solanke, we already spoke about him. There was a scene where they were like, oh yeah, Richarlison's on the grass, and they quickly took him off and put him out of view. That was funny because we know he wasn't quite ready there. But then on the right, we know Kudus was being well rested, so Kudus will start. Romero again, well rested, so he will start. Mackie van der Ven didn't come on, so he will come into the fray. But it's just that midfield dynamic I think a lot of fans have been talking about and hoping that Xavi stays in the number 10 role. But what I find interesting is that you do want your 10 to kind of risk it, but it's where we risk it with Jamie Simons. And maybe that's the reason why Frank had played him left to start with, because of his physicality in times and his risk averseness in that kind of build-up phase. Sometimes we do lose the ball in that particular area. But I still want to see him pull up there. Lots of fans have been happy, and I know Lubo's going to come onto this. Archie Gray, I thought he was really good in the week, albeit Dorchester, I thought on that right hand.
We weren't at the Dorchester, was we?
Sorry. Doncaster, my bad.
But I'm about to say, have we really slipped down the leagues these last few years? I thought I've gone back to non-league days. I thought we're back playing Tamworth again. Don't put me through that, Ash, for God's sake.
Yeah. But you know what's interesting? Because Paulinho played centre back, and I felt that really helped Archie Gray, because when Paulinho is slightly deeper, he's not having to have his back to the goal, so he doesn't have to see what's behind him. When he's playing in that centre back role, the whole pitch opens up. He can see everything, meaning that he can play forward passes, and he was able to ping left, right, in the channels, over the top, diags, you name it. And that allowed Archie Gray a bit more freedom, and he could kind of swap in and out that midfield with Bentancur. And I think sometimes we do have rotation issues in terms of where players need to be when one player is in that 6 and the other one's in the 8, and they need to support when we're playing that back 3. So we sometimes need that double pivot at times. Not always a double pivot, but sometimes when trying to build out from the back, we do need that midfield structure to happen. One goes forward, one goes in. And with Bergvall, he's still learning, in my opinion, on the job, when to make those runs and when to sit, because he looked so much better in that second half against, was it West Ham? Not West Ham, sorry. The last game he played, he looked a lot better when against Brighton. Brighton. He looked a lot better against Brighton when he was able to drop back in alongside either Bentancur or the other midfielder, Paulinho. Sorry, he looked much better, and that dynamic suited him a lot better. But I think that's the question, man. I think Udogie, I'd say King Hoddle's right. Udogie coming back in that left back role, but he played really well. And having a left footer on that side helps that dynamic on us building on that left-hand side. So be very interesting. I just need I need Richarlison to keep that record up, because he's got an excellent record against Wolverhampton. Okay. He has scored quite a few goals against them, so he does like playing against them. So hopefully he will keep his scoring frame up. I know we're not all fans of him, but at least he's in the right place at the right time. He can cause havoc at times. But
Definitely cause havoc. Whether it's always good or bad, another question. Ash, on this point, prediction: what are we going for? Will we end the curse?
Let's go positive, man. Let's go Spurs win. Let's go for a 3-1. 3-1. Yeah.
Okay.
3-1. They haven't won a game all season. Let's just keep that up, man.
Yeah. Premier League days. I'm hoping, like Anthony Costa, he said, I think it's good they won during the week because you don't want to play a side that hasn't won at all. So I know some might think, we're getting a bit of confidence by winning, but at the end of the day, I think I'd rather let them see win midweek.
Well, Frank knows how important it is. You said it already in the press conference.
Yeah.
So they would have done a lot of homework, studied a lot, and saw where whether they play a back 4, back 3, where their weaknesses are, what players to target, etc. Without going even deeper. But
yeah. Well, on that point, Luke's coming over to you. He said we are facing a Wolves side that has still got good players in the team. Everyone is aware they've not had the best start in terms of points in the Premier League, but their games have been very, very tight. This is a team the last 5 times we haven't been able to beat. So we are acutely aware of that. So your thoughts on that? How we measure up to Wolves? Are you expecting more of a dominant Spurs side at home? Because to be fair, look, you're there obviously every other week, bless you. The home form, we haven't really got going, have we, in terms of Premier League form there? Bournemouth wasn't great. I know we put 3 past Burnley, but I know the home fans want to see us dominate teams, rightly so at home, want to see us have plenty of shots. So people probably will be expecting a home win despite our record towards isn't great, Lubes.
Yeah, listen, I think we'll win. Don't think it'll be easy. I'm going for a 2-0 tomorrow. I think the team that you flashed up from King Hoddle, I thought was spot on.
Okay.
And I think he'll bring Spence in for Bodo on Tuesday. I think that's, for me, that's the best team we can put out at the moment. And I mean, just wanted to say the ball from Bergvall through to Johnson on Wednesday was a delight. That was gorgeous. And you can see he's growing each game.
Yep.
I know first half against Brighton he wasn't great in the 10 when he dropped back to the 8. Thought he had a really good second half.
Yep.
And it's important if we get this, we win tomorrow and we win next week. You go into the international break with 16 from 7. And we're up near the top.
We are. Yeah, it's been it would be a really good start, wouldn't it? A great start under Frank. This would be great start. Yeah, like I said, for those that missed that stat, I think I said at the start of the show, in terms of points accumulated for Spurs, Frank's record of his 10 from his first 5 is double what Ange achieved in his final 12 top flight games in charge of Spurs. So again, it tells you really just the change around in terms of the points per games already has been really, really positive. So look, we'll hope that will continue. Lubes, always been a pleasure to have you back on. Prediction, what are we going for? What are we going for?
Tomorrow,
what are we going for?
2-0.
2-0. 2-0. Lubes, thank you so much. Johnny, let's close with you. Frank has said Spurs, we need to come out flying. We have to be ready. The fans, we have to have them behind us. They need to be behind us in every second of this game. I am confident we will perform. Johnny, are you confident we're going to perform against Wolves?
Look, I love this manager, right? I loved him before he came. Never thought he'd come. This is my guy, right? Hands-on coaching. They're calling the professor. I've said this many times before because every single aspect of the game is important to him, right? Forget the in-game, it's everything, every single aspect, right? If you don't contribute, you're gonna pay for it. Spurs need to start strong, basically, and take early control to avoid, Wolves being settled. But as Ash was saying, we really need to exploit their weaknesses, which is really on the wings and transitions. And I believe we can do that. And as much as I love Spence, the problem is, on that right hand, on that left hand side, he's right footed. So, people give him a hard time about not crossing the ball properly. If he was playing on the right, you'd see the full Jed Spence. I believe we have 50% Jed Spence, that brilliant defensive work. But with Destiny, you're getting that left footer. But listen, look, we got to look out for Strand Larsen. He's been in good form. And their new signing, Arakadari, I think his name is, that they signed from Genk.
He got from Mark last week. He got from Mark the week, didn't he?
Yeah. He's a good. And Belgium's got some really top players out there at the moment. But I think we need to get hold of the midfield there with Andre and Yao Gomez, who I really was quite a big fan of theirs. But I think we have to win this. I think we can win this. I know our record is shocking, but listen, come on, Dr. Tottenham, you surely can't turn up. Wolves haven't scored away from home all season. So I
can hear Costa saying, don't say that. Johnny, don't say that.
Say it, and is probably saying that as I speak. But I'm gonna go for a convincing 3-0.
Okay.
I'm going to go convincing 3-0, and I'm going to say that Richarlison carries on scoring a goal. But can I just say, Lucas Bergvall, man, honestly and truthfully, right? I know I get accused of overhyping him for the last 18 months since I first set eyes on him.
You overhyping? What are they talking about?
Honestly, the kid is unbelievable, right? And I know he's not a finished article, but he's only going one way.
Yeah, he's only going one way. Everyone lock those doors and don't let him out. Listen, I want to say a massive thank you to this wonderful, illustrious, amazing panel. From Ash over at Spurs Kings. Ash, we're going to see you later in the week. From Johnny and Lubo, they're back with us, hopefully now for the next few weeks. Like I say, a lot of games to come, fixtures to find, marriages to try and keep and solve and retain and nurture and flourish. And you know the drill. Look, from us all, from Johnny, from Ash, from Lubo, the boys from the Spurs 5, Ash from the Spurs Kings. We've been the last word on Spurs. Keep liking, keep subscribing to everybody on the panel. And as always, come on, you Spurs.